What's up, Cup? I'm here with Marcus, me being Lydia from Nashville.
Hi. Hi, what's up, Cops? Hi, Lydia.
Hello.
I'm Marcus. I'm here in Ottawa, Canada.
I feel like we need to do a series of like, where is Marcus?
Yeah, we want to change our backgrounds a little bit, especially when the weather gets nicer. Here in colder parts of Canada, we try to get as much as possible outside when the weather is nicer. So the weather just got nicer. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're
go to
out.
the beach.
Yes, our beaches.
I'm never gonna live down.
So today, actually, talked to
Mm,
Lydia, and I told her, I want to interview you. There has been a lot of things that has been happening that I don't understand actually, and I kept
mm,
asking myself, why, like, do why do I need to understand a local thing that is happening in Nashville?
mm,
Uh, but also, I thought it would be an interesting opportunity for us who are not um, from the Nashville area
mm,
or aware of Nashville politics and the community organizing to understand more and to get have an example of why local organizing and local politics
mm.
matters for cops. So, if you can tell us and
Yes.
if you folks actually are following, and I'm encouraging you to follow Lydia on Twitter. Her Twitter is so active, and I also really like the fact that her followers and the people who retweet her tweets are mostly not cops. So I want to hear from you, Lydia. What is happening in Nashville? Why are you tweeting a lot these days and retweeting a lot from folks um, about Nashville? And what is Metro Arts or
Yeah,
Metro Council of the Arts? So I'm coming
I love
here
it.
very naive and
Yeah,
tell us about this. And for somebody who's outside of Nashville and doesn't understand
right.
what's happening on Lydia's Twitter feed.
Yeah, I really appreciate having this kind of platform where we can talk about it and people can bring in all the feedback from across the country about what's going on here in Nashville. I will say, so let's start from the beginning. So the metro government here in Nashville is a city and also a county that is combined into one. So it's a huge, huge, huge government. And one of the department entities is called Metro Arts. And Metro Arts' whole role is to just give grants for the arts. That's the whole role there.
So
And
just to
it's mandated.
clarify, metro is just a word like the metropolitan Nashville area,
Yes.
right? Okay, all right, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
because for some folks, different parts of the world, metro might mean something else.
exactly.
So you folks in Nashville call it like because in Canada, for example, there is like the Greater Toronto area.
Exactly.
So folks will use greater more than like metro. So yeah, I'm just.
Mm,
Mhm.
yes. So the important part is that this covers like a huge group of people here, and all the taxes are funneled into this one big government for the county and the city of Nashville. So obviously that includes a lot of Coptic people who live in Antioch outside of the city of Nashville, but the government, because it's a metropolitan government, are all connected. So in 1972, Metro Arts formed as a government body to disperse funds every year to arts organizations. Now, there were several issues with this because it was used as just like a middle body to funnel money into the concert halls, the museums, directly from our taxes. And they defined an arts organization as an organization that only does art. So, an organization like in Mahaba, we have arts programming, but it's not the only thing we do. Obviously, we have tutoring and diaper banks and food deliveries, etc. Um, we cannot apply for that funding. So even if we're like, "Hey, can we have $5,000 so that we can do this youth programming, this youth art class?" They would say, "No, you're not qualified to receive this money because you have to be an arts-only organization." And that's a bit ridiculous if you understand how grant making works now, because grant makers usually understand, El Mahaba does ACP and tutoring, but they also do a lot of civic engagement. So let's give them funding for civic engagement. Or, they do civic engagement work, but we want to fund their youth programming, whatever. So it's a bit very outdated, but very calculated. So, and this was an all white staff, and they were funding primarily all white organizations for a very, very long time. Now the statistic is that 70% of Metro Arts funding from 1972 to 2014, 70% of that fund has gone to white people, which is egregious, especially if you know Nashville has always been predominantly people of color for decades. That has quickly changed, but like for decades has been predominantly a black city. So like Fisk University, the Jubilee Singers, all the famous, like, Black history and Black art here never have gotten funded through Metro Arts. So in 2014, with an all-white staff, they finally got called out, and every single decade, there's been people calling them out on this and being like, "Hey, you can't just say that the arts are a museum and a concert hall and just fund middle management. You're not funding artists." So in 2014, they hire people of color to come on board and diversify the staff, and they create a new fund called Thrive. Thrive comes from a different pot of money. It's called procurement fund. And the procurement funds in the government is a little bit different because it's not a typical grant, so it's not a ton of paperwork and not a ton of application. But it's like it helps quickly pay individual artists. It's like less paperwork and direct funds to them. And it was called Thrive. And it started off.
I'm smiling because I live in a government town, so familiar with these bureaucratic terms and
Okay.
funding streams. Yeah.
I didn't know if you were laughing because it was getting confusing or laughing because you understood. So I'm glad you were laughing because you understood. Yeah, the things we have to do to get money to people of color is crazy. So Thrive in 2014 was created. It was up to $4,000, and you had to work with an art board. So you still had to be tied to a white person in some way. So it wasn't perfect, but it was some kind of a step. And so this is kind of where our story intersects with Metro Arts. In 2019, I had a friend who contacted me and said the new mayor is getting inaugurated September 2019. El Mahabba had just formed. This friend knew about El Mahabba and was like, can we, I asked Metro Arts about like what artists can perform at the inauguration, and they sent me a list of all white artists in 2019. And my friend was like, I'm not going to invite an all white group of artists to perform in Nashville. And so asked me if I knew any Arab artists, and this was before we had really organized our directory and everything was like working up and working at Mahaba. And I said, I can't do that in 3 days. I don't know who to contact and like check in, and it's gonna be a lot of labor for me. But let's grab a cup of coffee and tell me who this Metro Arts is. Because I had never, ever heard of Metro Arts, and I grew up in Nashville and never heard of them. And of course, then you find out that they have funded all these murals, that they fund all these like anything a white person wants to do, they go to Metro Arts. If they want to have a sword making class, they go to Metro Arts. If they want to do like a poetry slam night, they go to Metro Arts. And the rest of our community members just don't have that type of connection to that organization for obvious reasons. And this is kind of where it began to spiral because I was very interested to know where this money was going, because this is tax dollars and it's clearly not coming into, at least the Arab communities here are not getting it. So I was like, I want to know who's getting it. And Metro Arts is one of the only entities in Metro Nashville government that does grant selection panels. So they pay community members to come in take 4 hours of their time to read through multiple grant applications and then score them. So, I decided that I wanted to do that. Yeah, and
That's why, like, yeah, because I thought like, oh, is Lydia switching? So I was following your tweets, and
yeah,
also I also listened to one of your interviews, and
mm,
you were talking about the grant applications, reviewing grant applications. And I said, oh, did Lydia changed her job, or like, so
yeah.
you volunteered to do that?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay,
So it's like,
mm,
yeah, you sign up to do it, you put in your application, and they say, "Yeah, you don't seem like you're gonna send it to all your friends." Like, so they do the background search and everything. And then they send you the applications, you read through, you score, then you meet 4 hours with other panelists. So it's a very extensive process. And they pay people now because usually it was, like, white people coming in who were like, "I wanna do this," and a lot more corruption would happen when you wanted it to be for free. So, anyways, I was absolutely stunned when I was reading these applications. As someone who writes grants, I also have a very high caliber of what a grant application looks like, and, being very straightforward and getting to the point and getting numbers in and showing that you're doing the work. Um, that's how I was taught. It's still a very white supremacist mindset of, like, you have to prove yourself and data driven. Um, but, there's some part of you as a person of color, like, that's how you were taught to do grants, like, at this very high caliber, and then you see these white people who are, like, writing nonsense grants with no data, no evidence, nothing to really prove this is what they're doing with the funds. Or like this is helping the community in any way. So it was like very shocking to me. And I left the first grant panel very, very angry that this was like how like our tax dollars were going to these people. And mind you, I know in our community we have Arabic calligraphists. We have women who play the oud. We have choirs. We have full on production. We have people who like save up so much money so that they can get the right type of, film, so or like the huge videos that so that they can film, like, music videos here in Nashville, like, it's like, the way artists of color have to struggle, um, compared to white artists in the city, and especially compared to any white person who can get a 501(c)(3) and get an art application in, uh was just shocking to me, and the thing that really did it in for me was when I read the Thrive applications because they at Metro Art staff contacted me and said, "Please apply for Thrive, and please, like, fund your arts through Thrive." And I said, "I'm not going to do that because it's a condescending way of interacting with community members, of saying, 'Here's some, like, 9,500, and I know you're giving, like, 150K to the first." Compared to, like, "Here's some 9,500. Hopefully you can buy some art supplies and figure out what you need to do." And then the application was gonna take me, like, 10 hours. It was just a very I told them that this is not a feasible way for communities of color to interact with Metro Arts. And this is not how modern grant making works, or at least even, like, equitable grant making, even within other governments. And so I was like I still wanted to see how Thrive worked. And Thrive was absolutely abysmal because it was a bunch of white people coming in and saying they're going to teach Black kids music. That was their Thrive application. Um, yeah, they're gonna take Black kids downtown and show them, what concert music is. So it was really, like, really unhinged applications, and at that point, I was really done with Metro Arts because I was like, y'all are not as serious you're not serious about equity." To you, you want to say all the right things, have a land acknowledgement at every commission meeting, but the money is still going to over 80% white people, whether that's the general funds or Thrive. This is a serious, serious problem in Nashville. So
so Lydia, can I jump in and ask a few questions here?
go for it.
Because also for folks who are not familiar with community organizing and the differences in organizing in racialized versus white
Mm,
spaces. I have two questions. First one is like you keep talking about like white people, white people. Do you have something against white people? What's why do you keep saying all these grants? So what's the problem of
mm,
these grants going to white
mm,
people? Like, are you against white people? What's going on?
mm. I love it. Um, for me, these are tax dollars. So tax dollars have to be distributed across the county and across racial and class lines. So it's not that I have beef with white people as much as it is, I have beef with like, these are our tax dollars. We cannot be funding and literally there were projects for, like, sword making, um, or, other organizations who are outside of our county who have one program in our county, who are saying, "We want to hire someone who speaks Spanish," and they weren't going to pay her. In the budget, she was doing labor for free, but that was going to funnel money into their organization for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but not equitable pay. So that is the crux of the issue, is that there is a reason that it is going primarily to white people, and why white art and how white people view art as very individualistic is prioritized in the United States. There is a very specific reason. Colonialism, that's the answer, colonialism.
So, so from what I understood, now you're not against white people as much
Mm,
as you are for
mm,
more access to folks who haven't been able to, who are taxpayers, who
yeah,
are represented in tax in paying taxes,
yeah,
but they're not represented and they are not taking opportunity and access to certain funds, and the funds are going to predominantly
yeah,
folks who are able to apply for the funds historically and are yeah, have more access and more interest, um, or the system makes it more accessible to certain folks, which has been, from what I'm hearing in Nashville, white folks, right?
yes, exactly.
Hmm. So the other question is, you mentioned that like one of the, I guess, and the words that were triggering to you, or
Mm,
that annoyed you in the applications, or
mm,
you had red flags, whatever the word,
mm,
was an organization that wants to teach Black kids music,
uh-huh,
or to take them on trips from or to
mhm,
concerts in downtown. So can you also give us a background for folks who
mm,
haven't lived in the U.S., because I have?
mm,
How is an organization, why the organization wants to make it accessible, want to take, like, where usually Black people
mhm,
or racialized people live,
mm,
and why an organization wants to make trips
yeah,
for Black people to attend a concert, and why maybe that's such a phrasing, or what is the phrasing that you were looking for to make that um yeah, more less
yeah,
triggering to you, or more equitable, or better phrasing. Yeah, tell us more about that background, please.
yeah, so there were several applications that were like that, um, because there's a direct question in the application that says, how do you how do you see equity in your work, and how do you engage people? And so white people would say, we're like taking Black kids downtown, to see, Swan Lake or whatever. And to me, this automatically and, there was another even application that was released just too, of one guy who wanted to do a mural about awareness about unhoused people in Nashville. And the way he was gonna do this, his application was, he was going to, go partner with an organization that, feeds unhoused people and shelters them, and he was gonna go to them and do this, have them create the mural, paint the mural, and when you opened up his budget, how he was gonna spend the $9,500 that Thrive now lost, it was all for him. So, like, really egregious level of, like, weaponizing the arts, because the arts are not a neutral space. And to me, all of this language reminded me of colonial structures of saying, "We're gonna go help the Africans. We're going to go and send them off to college in London," because that's what they need. They need to know about Western forms of art and music and sound and space and whatever book. It can only be Western literature. They don't have literature. They don't have arts. And not only that, so not only are you denying kind of cultural importance for these children, within their own communities, that they have music, that they have dance, that they have, just like in the Coptic community, we have all of these things. We don't need white people to show us what music is. We have that. Thank you very much. So not only are you saying from a condescending point of view saying you need to know white people art. No, we don't. We're good. Unless we're willing to. No, you don't have to this relationship, but also too that you're doing this to get money, right? Like you're not out of like you know uh, the benevolence of your heart, right? Like you're doing it because you want money from the government, and that's how you do it, right? You're not
So
for
you
community.
wanted the artists, for example. How
Mm,
did you how do you want? So again, for folks who are like outside of our circles, how
yeah,
do you want that artist to apply for the fund or to talk? Like, what are what are a better way
yeah,
to write or to distribute the funds, basically?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those type of legislation should not be applying. Like tax dollars are not just for you to have fun with whatever idea you have. But I think this is why it's important to have a very racial conscious application of saying like people of color or people within their communities should be the ones who are funded because they have a stake within their community, right? So in the Habba, when we do arts programming, we have a stake in those kids realizing themselves in that part. Even in one of our art classes, we had a songwriting day. One of the kids said, "Oh, songwriter is a profession?" Like, she was just so confused that the person who was teaching the class is a songwriter. And imagine, she's in Nashville. Like, you can throw a rock anywhere in Nashville, someone's gonna say they're a songwriter. Most people you meet are songwriters, but here you have a kid who's growing up in Antioch, had never even thought that this is a profession. But all these white people all of them are songwriters. So that's what sets it apart for me when we have a songwriting class. It's not just, "Oh, the kids are gonna create a cute song together and have time out of the house and be able to bond." It's for them to know what avenues are available to them, and for them to be able to imagine and dream in a collective space and not just, "Here's my reality, and here's what white people want me to think and believe in myself." So there's a lot to say. And I mentioned several times, so in 2022, after all of this drama with Metro Arts, um, they hire a new director. Not just me, but also a lot of community members are having the same concern. They hire a new director who's very committed to equity, named Daniel Singh. You'll see him referenced a lot in posts. And Daniel Singh comes in to the DMV area. He comes in and he starts to shake up the whole department. So he hits the ground. He will tell you, he will tell you he didn't do anything radical, and I think to be honest, he didn't. But I think for Nashville, it was a pretty radical stance to come in and have a disparity study, be very open, anti-racist, to shake up the staff, to start like application process that we went through in going through the community and having a democratic process of we're going to the community what they want on that application to be asked on the grant application. That's what we're going to do. That is a very radical to in Metro. Say what the community wants to see on a grant application, what we're gonna do. And if they want more money, if they don't wanna cap it at 9,500, they want more money, let's go. Let's do it. And he pushed through a lot of those requests and did a ton of outreach in Nashville for that. And during our grants editing panel, I was participating, and I said, a lot of these treatments that I was saying we need to be very race conscious, because when we're not, that color blindness is going to cause more harm to communities of color. And it was intention. So a lot of this story also has to do with Nashville because there are people who are used to things going a certain way. And it was very clear in that room that there were people, even though they would say I'm anti-racist, like I march for BLM, they still are going to I voted for Obama. Just keep going on that. When it comes to actually redistributing the wealth, that's gonna be a problem. Yeah.
Hmm. So I have a question, another question and a reflection. What's at stake for you? Why are you involving yourself in something like this? So, if somebody who is from the Coptic community, we know that we're not usually as involved in local community. We usually, when we see stuff like this when happening outside of the church building, we tend to get inside the church building and create these alternatives
Mm,
on our own. So I would be creating an art programming on our own inside the church, or theater programming, or stuff like that. And this is what has been happening in Egypt.
mm,
So why are you
mm,
involved in something like this that
mhm,
some folks might see like, oh, this is something like what's at stake for a group like cops to get involved like Lydia in something like this.
yeah. Very good question. Uh, there's a lot at stake for me. I think I found out about Metro in 2019, 2020, COVID hits, and that was a very disastrous time for the Nashville Coptic community. It was a very, very hard time because the employers, um, killed a lot of our community members, and for what? Some chicken, some broken bones, to come work for the tourists. So, it was during that time that I heard over and over again, um, "This is a government that doesn't work for us, that doesn't care about us." They're willing to close out, and I would see people literally, there would be people coming in for the vaccine, and Metro workers would say, "Oh, you have to go to our next location." 10 miles away. Tell them, and it's like they have shifts to go to at 3 p.m. Just give them the vaccine, open up, just take 5 minutes, and just if you're late for the next location, right? There are other people. So it was continually that is the sentiment a lot of our people have, is that this is a government that doesn't work for us. We're not gonna vote because nobody comes to my door and cares about us. Nobody wants to recognize us. Nobody even uses terms like, the Egyptian community is one of the largest communities, immigrant communities here. Um, and so from that was the first thing that I heard. The second thing being when so many of our community members had to take less shifts, or were completely furloughed or unemployed during 2021, many like me, I'm an artist. I can do something. I'm a carpenter, I'm a musician. I wanna connect with people, and I want to be able to share, pass on this tradition, or I want to be able to create with other people. It was such a time of, forced loneliness and forced, a deeper segregation than we're already in Nashville. Um, and so with those 2 things, that's when I started reaching out to Metro Arts very deeply, because the arts are important. us, and the arts are and to this day, I still get so many community members who are like, "How do I apply for arts funding?" You know, and I want to encourage that, like, I don't think Mahabba should be a one-stop shop, like, I don't want Mahabba to be like, "Here's our cultural director, all arts programming goes through us." I want our community members to feel like they can engage their community, engage their government, and get those funds, especially when they are paying into those funds. So that's what's, at stake for me, is that I feel that the arts are the essence to mobilizing our community outside of religious spaces. I even had someone DM us, and he's Muslim, and he was saying, "Are there any, like, um" what do you call them? Like theater troupes, in Nashville, and the only ones I know, that work in Arabic, right, are in the church. They're all in the church. So we have multiple of those, and they put on beautiful plays, all religious plays, but they're in the church. So this is what's at stake, is that, like, the way the arts teach us to connect and offer us that space to create with one another, they are vital to our community members. They are vital to long-term mobilizing and organizing in our community. So it was very important to me also that when I got involved with Arts Equity Nashville, um, that it was a multiracial coalition, and that it was for all people in Nashville as well, so that people in Nashville could see, "Hey," and I've gotten this too, which I'm very proud of, it's like, there's a Coptic person on that team, you know, like,
Yeah.
and there's a Coptic person advocating with, like, the mayor and with the council members, and they're listening to that Coptic person. For Coptic people to feel like, you're not guests in this country, you all contribute actually the greatest thing to this country in being a major labor force here, alongside Black and Latinx community members. So, you don't need to be like, "No, like, we don't need to have that energy. Um, like, no, 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 like, um, we can take what's ours, and I feel like this is the multiracial coalition that is coming up and building, and having Coptic people see that and say, "Okay, um" we can win, and we can win when we collaborate and are in coalition with other people. That's what's at stake for me long term.
It's so beautiful because, and I can't really not reflect as a person who have lived in
Yeah,
Egypt, and then in the US, and then now in Canada.
exactly.
And I cannot not think about it. I always, when I tell a person the story of
Mm,
why, as a person who's trained in healthcare, why I had
right.
all these skills and talents in the arts, and it
Mm,
was because of the church in Egypt. And I had to get into this long introduction, but I think actually
yeah,
folks really need to know Copts
yeah,
in Egypt don't have the space to participate in the arts, but
yeah,
also other Egyptians too who are not well off. The art scene can be an elitist and
mhm,
also
mhm,
discriminating against
yeah,
Copts. So when folks, so that's why, and this is actually what happened with Pope Shenouda,
hmm,
and with the Sunday school
mm,
movement, they started to have. So you know what, the government is not going to let us do it. The civic space is not letting us do it. Let's have music and theater
mm,
production inside the church, and actually many folks actually don't know that the establishing the bishopric of youth with Amba Musa was
mm,
predominantly to make these activities and to organize and oversee these artistic
mm,
activities for youth and young adults during the summer break, because also the summer break in Egypt is 3 months. So it's like it's a lot of time
mm,
that need to be filled, and the government is not providing
mm,
to average citizens this spaces to express themselves in the arts. So this church stepped in and filled the gap, and
mm,
now we have Mahragan al Kraza. Guess what?
yeah,
So the idea of
mhm,
like Mahragan al Kraza now. Mariana Craza is not just in Egypt; it's also in the
Mm,
U.S. and Canada and different parts of the world. It's because of filling that gap. But the
mhm,
issue is with when we move to the US or Canada and other
mm,
parts of the world, when we have systems and we have we pay taxes, and these taxes goes to different uh, projects. One of them is the arts, and make arts accessible
yep,
to folks who are not able to pay to for a piano teacher, who are
yep,
not able to hire a theater teacher to teach their
mm,
kids how to act or to play a piano or to
mm,
get into a conservatory. So this is an actually big part of
mm,
the when folks immigrate here and they get annoyed by the taxes that are paid. Um, um, Part or big part of these taxes goes to these grants that Libya is
mm,
fighting to make it more accessible to
mm,
Copts and other racialized communities. So it's not about being against white people, or
mm,
it's like what we did. Like, and I think actually us Copts, not historically, not having
mm,
access in our homeland to
mhm,
experience the art, to experience other things
mm,
in our homeland, and we move to diaspora and other immigration lands. I think actually one of the things that we need to fight for,
mm,
and it's part of our ancestral heritage, is like, yes, we're oppressed in Egypt for these things. When we get some freedom and less oppression in North
mm,
America, we need to fight for this. And I think actually it's
mm,
nothing less than when folks saying, "Oh, the martyrs fought for our faith," uh,
mhm,
and I think actually average Copts fought
mm,
for our existence. And when they move here, I think as a continuity of fighting, we need to fight for our existence and access to
mm,
these resources. One of them are these grants for the arts. Doesn't have to,
mhm,
and we don't need to. And actually, the church doesn't need to replace these spaces.
mm,
Yes, there can be a
mm,
space for the arts inside the church, but
yeah, yeah,
hey, we can actually organize to use the taxes that we pay, and
mm,
then maybe
mm,
make less of these active, or funnel the funds inside the church for other things that are
mm,
higher in need. So yeah, it's I really like what you shared with us, Lydia,
yeah.
and what's at stake for you.
And I do
I
want to share too what triggered the coalition thing, because this has been going on for decades, obviously, the inequity with Medicare. Um, because I think that this is repercussions for everyone outside of Nashville too, that happened on August 17th, 2023. It's like a trigger warning. um, so what happened was when Daniel edited the he streamlined the application and he got that approved December 2022 from the commission. The commission is like these board of volunteers that the mayor appoints, and they have to approve almost everything that the director does, right? Especially when it comes to the grants. Not like very daily oversight, but something as big as like we're changing the grants process, we're changing the grants application. They have to approve that. And they approved it. So that went through December 2022. The grant opens up in February of 2023, and a record number of people apply, almost close to 200. It goes to the grant selection panel, so that group of people who read through all the applications, God bless them, and it's down to 133 applicants qualified for funding. But here's the problem: Metro Arts does not have enough funding. So Daniel and his team go to Metro Council, which is the governing democratically elected body, during budget season. So this is around like February, March, and April, and they advocate for an extra $2 million. For Nashville's budget, this is nothing. Nashville's budget is 3.2 billion. 3.2 billion. So 2,000,000 is like $50. You know what I mean? This is not a lot. And Metro Council finds the 2,000,000 in the budget that was earmarked in that budget for, the large organizations. So, the previous mayor had made a promise to the large organizations, and this is all illegal, like, this is all, like, under the table. He wrote it into the budget. Um, and so council says, "Oh, well, we don't have to give it to them, they're doing fine." Right? Like, we're talking about $50,000,000 organizations. They don't pay property taxes, which is also important because in Tennessee, we don't pay a state income tax. So all the taxes from that the government holds comes from property and sales. So really important that they don't pay property because that's where the money comes. So they're not really contributing to the fund, but they want access to it. That's just a very important small little detail there. Anyways, so council says we're gonna move that 2,000,000, and they put an amendment, and they say we want it specifically to go to people of color because we have a record number of people of color applying. So now Thrive applicants, 35% of them, 35 to 40% were people of color. So it's still majority white, but council says fully fund Thrive with this one. It goes to the commission. In July of 2023, they vote pretty well, and they say, "Okay, we'll accept the funds, we'll accept the amendment." During that time, one of the commissioners, who's a racist, goes to the legal department. The legal department, that's a whole other story, but they're a white supremacist institution, and they have voted against equitable measures and collapsed full-on offices and bureaus in Metro. So this is a really dangerous institution. So the commissioner goes to them and says, "But affirmative action was overturned in June. So how can we fund people of color?" And Metro Legal sends a 7-sentence memo. So if you're a lawyer, you know that that's insane. That's only 7 sentences saying affirmative action was overturned. You cannot fund people of color. And so basically overturning what the democratically elected body voted in as a budget. And says, "You can't do that." Without any reasoning, without, like, "Here's what the brief says," they did not do anything. It was just seven sentences saying, "You have to recall this vote." Now, this is when the hullabaloo happens, because now we're gonna get to the recall votes. And they don't have to switch their votes over, but white commissioners chose to do that in August 17th, 2023. They pulled out scripts, and they read their mind as to why they were switching their vote from voting to fully fund Thrive to not. And they made up, a lot of excuses. So after that vote, I was present at that vote. I gave a 15-minute public comment about what this meant for our community members. And what's actually, like, really psychotic, the commissioners listened to my 15-minute comment, and they clapped for the longest time as I sat down. They came up to me, they said, "You're Mahaba is an organization we should be funding, you're doing great work." And then just 30 minutes later, they funded us. So in Mahaba had applied, this is a great analysis on white supremacy when we get to it, but in Mahaba had applied for $20,000 for 4 different programs, with 4 different community members leading each project. Because we were defunded, that led to a whole set of problems for me because we had to cut so many programs, and 2 specifically, and then one of them got cut in half. So a lot of bad phone calls happened between August, and I contacted my friends who were also at that meeting to discuss, and they said we can't just see this happen to us another time from the commission and let it go. And that's when we filed the Title VI complaint. Title VI is part of the Civil Rights Act. And it says you cannot discriminate on the basis of race, national origin, or color. So we filed that complaint with Metro Human Relations in September. And from there, we start coalescing, we build out the Instagram, we start developing a base, membership base of artists. We start doing teach-ins. We start getting artists to file in their complaints. So we had, I think, over 30 artists um, filed. They signed on to our complaints in very like in the span of like a week. So we just had to be rapidly responding to this situation, and the commissioners pushed back a lot on us. We still don't have those funds, but now we've shifted the conversation, put all these commissioners on the back foot for not giving us those funds. Um, yeah, so it's been a very wild ride. It's been a lot of, like, attending meetings, speaking to community members. A lot of community members did even, like, people of color, did not understand what equity was. Um, a lot of community members said, "Y'all should just leave the money, like, Metro is racist, you're not gonna get this money back." And here we are 6 months later, like, the mayor is now put on the back foot for this money, and since January, they've been saying they're going to issue the checks if, um, white supremacist, if Daniel Singh resigns. Like, they want him gone, because of the work that he's done. And we've had people come up to us and say, "Just leave Daniel, let them fire him, leave that community member, and y'all will get that money." And we've said, "No, we can have both. We can have equity, and we can have a person of color like in a position of power in Metro, and we can get the money. We're not backing down." And so the big news today was that that commissioner who went to Metro Legal in July after the vote to tell Metro Legal to recall it on the basis of affirmative action, he resigned because he was about to be removed by the council. That's how much he's hated in Nashville. We made him a household name. So he there was a resolution to remove him from the commission. It requires 30 of the 40 Metro Council members to vote against him. We were probably going to have those votes, even though that's a very high stake. And so he went ahead because he's a lobbyist and a lawyer. He went ahead and resigned on his own, which is a huge major win for our community to see, a racist just fall away out of the shadows and hopefully not come back. But that was the good news from today.
Wow, no, it's so nice to hear such news. And thank you for organizing and being part of this, Lydia. And the thing is, too, I want also to bring people who are not, who might be outside of such conversations, and to touch on what you said about like labeling a person a white supremacist or a racist, and I think some people actually knowing that many people in our communities are watching Fox News, or the new cuter quote unquote right wingers and young right wingers like Ben Shapiro, on their war against words like equity, and how these things really influence government workers or leaders, or people who have the power to uh, influence like uh, decisions, and it is hurting us, guys. It's not giving us, it's hurting المحبة, an organization that has been doing amazing work, that is really needed, filling the gaps in Coptic community in Nashville, of defunding a Coptic organization, or defunding some programs at a Coptic organization. This is not far from us when we affirm or listen to uh, folks who are attacking racialized communities, or attacking affirmative actions, or attacking social justice. Um, we are hurting with Black folks and other racialized communities. So this is not far. We're not gonna stay inside our churches and be protected. Why do we need to go
Mm,
inside our churches to feel protected. Also, in the immigration land, while we many of us fled
mm,
Egypt, finding safety in the US and Canada. And now we are also attacked by racist systems or medias
mhm,
that many of us
mm.
watch and affirm and share. So we need to choose differently, and equity
Yeah,
is helping us.
yeah.
Not just us, other racialized folks as well. And it's not against white
Mhm,
people. It's not, uh,
mm,
as you heard from Lydia.
mm,
Yeah, we need to name things with their names. But white people are not bad people. It's not about white people um, as much as we need people like Lydia and other folks who
mm,
are helping mobilizing to really nudge the system and really challenge the system and telling them,
mm,
we need our fair share. We need our
mm,
parts too. If you really want, if you are different than very oppressive systems that we came
mm,
from, and you are telling us, oh, here, you're gonna live a better life. Yes, so we need to show us. Hi, system. We need you to show us how are we living in a different and better
mm,
than, than the place that we fled. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
Lydia.
really appreciate that. Like the statement of like this isn't like a thing against white people as much as it is, and the acknowledgement of that there's been harm. And this process has been very interesting because actually a lot of people who stood against us, I don't want to say a lot, but there is a small fragment of people who have stood against us who are Black, because they want to keep their relationship with the large institutions who are kind of egging this on, right? Who want to keep the funds for themselves. So it has been very interesting journey, and the leadership right now of Arts Equity, we have a very diverse base, but like two of the people who are always coming out to meetings, creating posts, doing the teach-ins, etc., are two white women. They are holding down the fort for it. So I do want to acknowledge that as well. That white supremacy is very much there are people of color who can be white supremacists and believe that white people are superior, and there are white people who can be anti-racist and join the cause. So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. So keep praying for us that we get there in Nashville. This obviously has repercussions. Why there is so afraid of this too is it has repercussions outside of Metro Arts of how grants are done and the ruling on affirmative action, because that's something that Metro Legal wants to use against a lot of departments. So us standing up is going to impact like the health department, it's going to impact the library, and all these spaces that we are funding with our taxes. So yeah,
So
I
Lydia, my last question
yeah.
here is, if a person wants to support the work that you're doing, mobilizing and being part of a bigger mobilization in Nashville, how people would support you? Is there a vote coming up? Is there like a calling your municipality representative? Like, what's like? How can people be active
Yes.
participants in that process?
Yes, very good question. So if you are in Nashville, we are currently emailing council members, the mayor, and commissioners to we still have an ethics complaint against one of the commissioners who is also racist. So we want to encourage them to recognize that and to also move that ethics complaint and remove that commissioner, Carol McCoy. We are also asking them to reinstate Daniel Singh, like give him full authority to direct, because he's in the middle of two different audits right now. So we want to make sure that's happened, and to pay the artist. Those are the three requests: that we move racist commissioners away, the director has full support of the team and the commission, and that artists are paid. So that's what the letter entails. You can go to Arts Equity Nashville. Um, you can go to Arts Equity Nashville and check that out, and it takes 2 minutes. If you're in Nashville, send that letter to your council members, 2 minutes. You're just gonna hit add your name, you just you're good. Also follow Arts Equity Nashville for more updates on the grant making process. Obviously, we're in the middle of another grant making process, right now that has been halted by Metro Local. So we want to make sure that the work is going to continue, so stay plugged in for that. And we will have a community, function soon. So just follow Arts Equity so you can plug in and see how you can like volunteer, watch the commission, like similar to court watching. It's very important that we watch them and make sure they know we are present. It has a huge impact on their decisions when they feel like they're being watched. So we need a lot of volunteers and building up that base to stay plugged in.
Awesome. Thank you, Lydia. And
Thank you, Mark.
make sure to follow Lydia on Twitter, on follow El Mahabba Center on Instagram
Yeah.
and Facebook. And yeah, follow us on WhatsApp Cops on Instagram. We
Yeah.
started our TikTok, and we also have a Twitter now. So and we're trying to make multiple reels from our so to make our long venting chats
Mm.
more accessible, smaller.
Mm.
They have been super inspiring to
Yes.
see cops doing multiple things, different things, and we
Mhm.
need more cops to do these things. And yeah, here's an example. Lydia is really fighting on the ground to make government funding and services more accessible for
Mhm.
cops and other folks in local Nashville and Nashville metro area.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us, and yeah, stay tuned for the next
Yeah.
episode.
Thank y'all. See